one of the church in other countries, and then you might help the people, right? In how can we do like this cross-cultural teaching and distance learning teaching. Yeah, today, so that's a topic that we're gonna go over, and especially cross-cultural teaching. And let's just start off with cross-cultural teaching. What do you think about when you the word cross-cultural teaching, and then across the culture, and you gotta teach, and you go to another country, and then you gotta teach them, and then I don't know how many of you guys have learned from their teacher from a different culture in your countries. Maybe when you go to college, when you go to your private academy, or when you go to kind of English camp, and when you go to if you want to learn English in kind of a private academy, and then maybe you can see that the native speaker or some Asian Americans, and they came from America and they teach English, right? And then maybe the white, right, Caucasian teachers are different from the American, Asian American teachers. So when I was in Korea and during the college year, one of my friends, he go to kind of a place to learn English, and like every morning at 6 o'clock they open a class, and then they kind of practice conversation in English, right? And that's the kind of thing. And then I remember, and then we had English department, and then English, and then some professors, 2-3 professors came from I don't know America, but they are Caucasians, right? But I never took the class from foreigners until came over here, and I don't know, maybe you had more opportunity because of globalization, and they opened the door, to the foreign teachers, and maybe whether you have or not, and have you done to foreign, have you gone to a foreign country and taught people? Maybe if you go to church, and maybe go to church mission, went to church mission trip on, and then and maybe you prepare something and teach the little kids, sometimes teach adults, right? Like that. And I did a lot with the churches, and then I went to Thailand and to teach English, and maybe we can talk about later. And then was really tired, and then school is a public school, but they open to us, and then there is a English teacher from Philippines and from America, so we met them, and they wanna expose whole school student to kind of learning English, and then we kind of set the program. It's kind of station by station, and then whole school kids kind of coming. They just we are there for a week at school, and then they every hour they switch the student, and then kind of let them learn something, right? It was really tiring, the whole day. Like until 3 o'clock, started like 8 o'clock, and they treat us breakfast and traditional food, and then we ate, and then we did. So it's a lot of work. That was I don't know much about Thailand, but still after I got married, and then we try to support Thailand missionaries. We try to support some students who study in Thailand and the native, and then they don't have enough money, but they want to study, and then we're willing to support them to study, and then that was I had a connection with the Thailand still, but I didn't know about the culture. I didn't know how to teach in cross-cultural setting, and then but still. I take the family to the mission. I took the families to the mission field, and in Thailand and other countries was too expensive to think about going to Africa. My family went once in Ghana, to Ghana, but it's too much money. So airfare is like during the summertime, it's like per person is what? How much was that? $1,500, $1,600, $1,000. But I know the living staying cost, it was not that expensive because we didn't stay at the hotel, and then but we stayed kind of a decent place like a church, and staying cost was not that expensive, but airplane is really expensive. So cost wise like $2,000 for individual person. But if you go by yourself, it's okay. But if you whole family going to, it's like a $10,000 per trip, right? So it's not easy. And then after the trip, and then it's hard to take the family to long way. It's away from the U.S. and then try to take the family to Mexico, and like Tijuana. It's driving is drive there about 2 hours, right? We can cross the border, and then we can go to church like 2 hours, and then every summer I went to the different part of Mexico, it's Guadalajara and Jalisco in state in Jalisco, in Michoacan, and Tenguecho in Michoacan. It's a little bit different part, and we have still, we have to fly, and we have to stay Mexico is different from the Thailand, so we gotta stay in the hotel, and then but hotel was decent price, like $40 and $50 per family, so it was okay. And but starting kind of teaching Sunday school kids and teaching, try to equip the teachers for Sunday school, and then it was kind of a new, eye-opening for teaching for me. And I learned a lot. And I know at the time I was studying also on intercultural studies. Maybe the perspective helped me a lot to open my eyes, but still people there, and then I try to approach a little bit different way to teach them. Maybe we can see what I have done. And I don't know, maybe I don't know, you had experience to teach kind of other people from the another country like Afghanistan and maybe Somalia, and maybe from other countries they cannot speak English. My daughter was kind of volunteering for teaching English for those who from, I don't know, maybe Afghanistan, and she said that nobody cannot speak English. Nobody cannot speak English, but still try to help them. But it's not easy because they don't know any clue about A, B, C, D, and basic alphabet, and then basic conversation, and then So just think about you put yourself in kind of situation that you are teaching people coming from other culture. Maybe you go to other culture and teach others. they have a different cultural background from you guys. And how you gonna teach? Maybe, I don't know where are you from. Maybe you guys from Korea and China and other part of the world, and then maybe you have your own educational background and cultural background. I don't know how you have studied in your countries, right? How you have to learn, and that's just to remember your experience, and then how you are exposed to cross-cultural learning or cross-cultural teachings. And here is, I tried to summarize the article there. It's attached from the class note. And then, so when you go to new cultural community, like other countries, and maybe another cultural community like Filipino and Korean and Afghanistan. But just think about that you have been there, but don't assume that you are the first one all the time. Right? Maybe someone is already been there, and then they try to teach, and maybe they are exposed to other cultures, maybe, and they know the kind of how to deal with the foreigners, right? So sometimes they already know how to deal with the foreign teachers and foreign cultures. Nowadays, online is available, and when you Google it, and it's a lot of information is available out there, right? And that's why I use Googling a lot. So I don't know the vocabulary, try to Google it. I don't know the terminology, try to Google it. And then always, sometimes from the really basic to the really complicated one. So when you go to other country or other people and from different culture, and then don't assume that you are the always first one, right? And what is the biggest challenge that you face? When you go to other countries, maybe you never met them before. Maybe, you kind of exposed to that kind of culture, you have a basic knowledge of them, but what is the biggest challenge that you would face? I think they are different from us, and their language is different, right? It means that they think differently, they learn differently. So the challenge is to getting to know people on their terms, not my terms. Mean that how can you understand them, right? And another one is how can you present yourself to them, right? Okay, I presented myself like this. Oh, I'm Christian. I'm a Korean Americans and blah blah blah. And they said, what's Korean Americans? Maybe they never heard the kind of terminology, and they are confused. Right? They don't know that, but they may be the cultural courtesy. Do you know what is a cultural courtesy? Sometimes if you go to other country, but they don't want to offend the guest, and then they just agree. Even though they don't like it, they just agree at the moment. That's a cultural courtesy. Even though they don't like to hear you, and then but still, I welcome you, I'm willing to listen to you. That's kind of showing the attitude. That's a cultural courtesy. That is the biggest challenge though. And how can you know them? How can I know them? How can I let the people learn about me. That's the biggest challenge. And then if you don't know each other, well, it's hard to teach and learn, and because there is no trust. Maybe, I don't know, right? And maybe if you build up as we already talked, and build up there was a trust and relationship in class, and then between teacher and student, and then our teaching is more effective like that. But different cultures, right? They think differently, they behave differently. Oh, think about it. I don't know whether you guys know the cultural difference, and then some people, when you call people, I used to like this, right? Come, like this. And then in America, they use it like this. If you, this one is kind of when you call the dog, and like this. When you call people like this. When you use a kind of motion, this one, it's a little bit kind of uncomfortable with people, especially. This means that, I know when I was in Korea, this means it's like, there's not kind of respect, the people, right? You don't respect people and just maybe really, little bit downgrade and look down. It's not the kind of way, but still, and like this, and a lot of different opposite, and sometimes we are really confusing. And that's why cultural difference is really good. Sometimes it's a little bit small things, but if you use that way, and you hurt others, and then they close their mind, and it's hard to teach. Probably later on, he's foreigner, and sometimes just if you go to Muslim countries and they don't use left hands, right? That one is kind of unclean hands, and everything says you gotta deal with right hand. But some people unconsciously use the left hand. It's really rude for them, but we don't. So people who use the left hand, and they don't recognize the cultural difference like this. And think about what kind of cultural baggage you guys bring as a teacher. And if you bring the less cultural baggage, the cultural baggage means that already you have a cultural tendency. If you are Americans, and how they grow up, and then when you go to other countries, and then a lot of times when you go to other countries, sometimes it's really considerable, and people but naturally behave like America, in America, and but people are really, also people are in the other countries, they found their faith, right? So if you take your own cultural baggage less, and it's easier to kind of understand other culture and avoid kind of jump into superficial conclusion. People tends to see the world in their perspective, in their worldview. Right? As an American, they see the people American. So whenever we are short mission trip to, especially to Middle East and then Muslim countries, Islamic countries, and then they use kind of a stripes, spaghetti stripes, and then wearing this kind of expose your whole arms, just cover the front and back little. It's not appropriate for the cultures. I once I brought the team to Thailand, and then he was a junior high schooler, probably, and then at the time it's kind of what is punk hairstylist. You kind of make a big, use the gel and make like a straight, right? And then in the morning, he said he kind of made a hairstyle I never seen that in Thailand, and then I asked him, can you make your hairstyle plain like before? And then why? Maybe I never seen the student. Not many people have a kind of hairstyle. Maybe your style may gives you others bad impression. So can you change? And he changed. Yeah, he listened to me, and then I asked the teacher. The teacher said, no. We don't allow that kind of hairstyles. Yeah, like this. Sometimes that's one of the cultural baggage that people bring. Wearing clothing and kind of talking to others, and then just think about in America, and then you can go to everybody and talk and ask something, but some countries, in some countries are very uncomfortable. The man goes to woman and asks something, and it's not comfortable, right? So we gotta know that our culture is different from other culture. Just think about onions. So a lot of layers in there, right? And then you peel one, you can say different thing. And another peel is a difference. All the way, if you understand all the way core of the onions, you can see who they are. Like this. And then don't jump into pre-conclusion and then try to do something, but just think about what is the outer layers, and then what is that? Just presenting what they are, but it comes from all the way inside. So we don't understand all the way inside, and it's very superficial, right? So think about how can we minimize our potential problem and accelerate our immersion into the new cultural community. It's a number of ways, right? How can you do that? How can you make a kind of mistake less? And sometimes our mistake is really offended the people, right? And that's a big thing, but usually people don't think about cultural difference, and then they do whatever they want to do. That's a postmodernism culture, and they don't think about how they are different, and just they are whatever they use in their culture, and just to do and try to do something in other cultures. That is a big. We gotta really we need to know how they are different, and then keep openness to the other cultures, right? And accept the people was in their own terms, not our own terms. So if you really wanna teach, and then you gotta learn about the cultures. We gotta learn. Maybe if you wanna make it really teaching effective, and then you gotta learn about them, and then you can find what's a more effective way of teaching. Otherwise, maybe just do and deliver the knowledge, whatever, and I don't know. Maybe how much is really significant on their life, and if we are meaningful to your life. If we don't have any influence on them. So first of all, we gotta know that the worldview. Worldview meaning that people have different eyes to understand the world, and they have different values, and they process differently, and what they behave differently. It depends on their worldview, right? And just and as Korean Americans, and then usually I go to my church. That's a Caucasian dominant church, and then I kind of when you greet to someone, and then I said hi, maybe some but usually I bow little bit, bow. So every Sunday, whenever my pastor is going around welcoming people, and then he comes to me, and then always he bows. Good morning, like that. Good morning, like this. And try to respect who they are, and then how great, and that's a kind of basic courtesy and manner. But we gotta know that always they have a different way of lifestyle based on their worldview. I don't think it's that understanding the world is different, but if we have a developed country, we live in developed country and educated by, we call the scientific method, and then we cannot say that this is better than this one, right? This world is better than other worldview. Not really. Maybe it depends on what criteria you have, but every culture has they have their own unique worldview based on their living. Just think about environment is different. But if you live here and then go to one of your tribe in Amazon jungles, and then can you live in American style with Amazon? Maybe I don't know how long you're gonna stay. Nowadays there's a choice there, right? And two people, man and woman, and go to really mountain whatever area in 2 weeks, and they need to survive. They give the basic tool, and they don't give anything. They gotta survive, right? And that economy shows, but it's not easy though. But if people they live and they know how to provide for themselves, something for themselves, and they know how to survive. That is different though. If we don't acknowledge that there is a cultural difference, and there is a different worldview, and if we don't respect our worldview, and then it's hard to give them influence, right? Through the educations and through anything. Here is kind of a different worldviews here, and then I didn't take out from our article, but I tried to find a little bit different way. Maybe there is a difference in modern science worldview, like American worldview, and then what about the indigenous worldview? Indigenous mean that if you go to other country, it's not like it's not developed like America. Maybe there's a developing country, maybe not any, right? Like Amazons and other part of. There is a worldview is different, and then there's a just comparison, and maybe if you Google and see it's a lot of comparison, Western and then Asian culture, right? And why they wearing the shoes inside the room, and why the shoes, not wearing the inside the room, right? Americans usually they wearing shoes and outside and go walk, and they go everywhere and coming to room, and they're wearing same shoes. they don't think it's not dirty, but what is my culture? So we take off shoes when we come in because outside is dirty, and then we try to clean the inside, keep the inside clean. So try to change the shoe or just take off your shoes. Do you know? Just think about it. And culture is different though, and a lot of times Americans use the carpet, right? And if you wearing the shoes, it's easy to clean. They say it's easy to clean, but if we take off the shoes and then so human has their own like oils and then you kind of make it dirty on the carpet and it's hard to clean. Yeah, there's a lot of explanation, but still different, right? The way of life is different. Here is kind of a difference between countries. Modernized and science kind of developed with the scientific method, and another one is kind of they don't have much scientific method, and look at this. Knowledge is presumed to be most accurate approximation. Right? Knowledge is really accurate, but any knowledge is presumed to be true. And you said totally different. Maybe there is errors there, but we say almost accurate, but the other countries are true. Knowledge is secular, but knowledge is secular also and sacred. Right? That's a different perspective. Just how we learn and how it goes and in the world, right? But sometimes I know in the world, but still it's really tied with the faith. Well, teaching occurs through the various didactical approaches, but teaching occurs through your storytelling. Well, just talk to each other, but storytelling, you gotta tell them, and the story and over, and they remind and they remember. One side usually, right? Two sides. So learned through the formal education, like school education and primary and secondary and higher education. What about this? Learned from the practical experience. Not the kind of formal class setting. They learned what? By experience. What about the most science knowledge is documented, but most indigenous knowledge is visible or oral. There is no research paper and journals. What about knowledge is critical and based on the subset of the entire system, but knowledge is integrated based on the entire system, right? It's not a subset. Just think about, I don't know how you guys do it. When I did a kind of research on my senior project at college and my doctoral research, and then I read a lot of papers and how people are doing. But there is things that people have done and people have not done yet. So try to all put together, and I got to make a question and then research about it, study about it. That's a kind of, but they believe that already knowledge is integrated, and then you don't have to do that one, just one, right? Knowledge is based on the models or hypotheses, based on the intellect, but knowledge is based on the intuition and environmental pattern observation. Can you see that? How you experiment, how you survey, there is the reliability and validity, and then they check all process and check the how many people you did, and then all kind of stuff. But no, and knowledge is really intuitive and observation how the world and nature is going on. It's not that complicated, but we really analytic and experimental and complicated, right? Consider the reductionist worldview and consider holistic worldview, and then they kind of divide, but they try to understand the whole world, right? What about knowledge always objective? Do you believe that? But knowledge is subjective to the geographical location in original form. Because if you go to different place and they are different way, and knowledge is different. I told you, kind of how you express, like emotions is different. Because that's a way of life, right? And knowledge is a positivistic program. So, and you gotta kind of build up and little by little, and then it comes out. And but experience, it's not just it's the same as you got to experience, right? Paradigm is totally different. Rapidly acquired and acquired through the lens of process, because it's not you gotta find out the pattern observing the world, and you gotta taste it like a food like that, and then you gotta taste and which is good and which is not good and edible, or you cannot not edible. Based on the prediction and the experiment, and based on the long-term wisdom from the community. And first approximation is based on their linear modeling, and just linear means that you're going to underline and try to develop little by little, but modeling based on the naturally occurring circles between the communities. There is one example how they understand about knowledge. So people are different. Just think about if you grow up in this modern science worldview, but if you go to what's indigenous kind of worldview, who has a different understanding of knowledge, and how can you teach? Not just math, not just language, English, but just general, anything. How can you teach, and how can make your teaching effective? So, first of all, we need to understand the what? Worldview, right? Yeah, it's one of a class the whole semester going on if you want to learn about worldview, but basically, you gotta know that what is a worldview, and then different kind of understanding of the world. But worldview we cannot see, but all the way deep down in the core of your system, and we cannot prove it, we cannot see it, but that's based on all the direction of your life and thinking and behaving and judgment and everything, right? And if you go there, why should we teach? What? Just think about, sometimes you just say, how are you doing, and how are you, I'm fine, thank you. It's not kind of knowledge. What is I know that the basic things about how can you teach them? What is your main task? And just think about it, even though you have your own agenda and then it's hard to find a way to deliver the way, but still, even though there is a lot of students there and your agenda is different from student agenda is different, and how can you deliver your knowledge, right? But basically, to help a student connect to the world around them in a ways that prepare them for the responsibility and opportunities. Basically, it's a really broad and generous thing, but still think about it. 1 plus 1 is 2 is not that important for them. They know how to calculate, even though they don't have a calculator. Maybe sometimes they use the fingers. Maybe certain, if you go to a certain culture and their counting is up to 20. 10 fingers and 10 toes. So I know we learned math and we learned English, but sometimes and nothing for our education. But what? Through that one, you have to develop their ability, right? How they think. When they think a different culture and different context, how can you deal with it? And through the process, you can do something, right? Same thing. And that is yeah, if you go to another countries, and to achieve such goals will require attention to the local culture in holistic and integrative manner across the curriculums. Rather than what? Add a component of a few hours a week after attending the real curriculum. And how can help them learn better if you don't understand their terms and what, and also, and if you don't even know their cultural context, then it's hard to teach them. So that's why I said attention to the local culture, holistic and what, integrative manner across the curriculum. So we gotta not just what I made in mistake in cross-cultural teaching, and I never thought about that one. This one. I don't think about who is the learners. I don't think about their cultural background. And I had the opportunity to equip the Sunday school teachers, and then I know my standard is pretty high, and then I tried to research and how can I equip the Sunday school teachers, and then I Googled it, and then tons of the materials and how they did in Korean churches and American churches, right? Especially in Korean churches, developed a lot of programs and materials, and oh yeah, this is really nice, good, and then I took that one. So took it the program and tried to implement for teachings. And guess what? It didn't work. It didn't work. Because later I found that they don't have any experience of the Sunday school. They Catholic, most of Mexicans Catholic, more than 80%. They don't know that they're Protestant, but they come to church. I don't know somehow how they connected, because of friends, Anyway, they come to church and they're willing to serve others, but they never done they never sin, right? And then they don't know how to do that. But I assume that I didn't acknowledge their background, and I don't think about their academic background, and then I don't think about cultural background. and I I don't think I failed, but still I can deliver some knowledge to Beijing methodology and how to do that, how to prepare, and then but it's really um, frustrated. And later on, I figured it out that I'm missing something and try to understand them, and then maybe redesign the programs. And once we want to teach kind of what is attendance sheet, and then we make it and then present them. Can you make a attendance sheet, a chart for the kids, or who is coming on the church and how they do, and then they made it. Usually, kind of we use the bar graph, and every Sunday, every week, and who's coming, or they do memory words or whatever, and then usually I expect them go all the way, vertical to the vertical, and then so name is here, week first, second, week is there, and then name is classmate here. I think it's more saves kind of space. Because I'm used to that one, but once I taught them how to make the chart and then give them material. Sometimes they don't have money to buy the material, so I rolled kind of paper, roll of papers, and then they could use it, and then later on. Next 1 month later, maybe 2 months, we went, every month we went down to Tijuana, and then they made their own things, because we made this one, and then we taught them, and then we used them, and then they made their own things, and then you know how they do. Name is kind of vertical, and day is horizontal. It's kind of it's hard to see. Because I'm not used that way, it's not wrong. But if you insist in your way, and maybe can you change this one, and then this, I saw a lot of things, kind of similar things. Though the indigenous people have their kind of expression, own way, but always it's not a big deal, but. Think about missionaries or teachers, and then they present their own cultural ways, and teaching in their cultural ways, and then they want them to follow. But always local attention to the local cultures, and then integrate, and then it's easy for them, and then they can learn something better. Not just 1-2 times present, right? How should we teach? Maybe they are not used to kind of classroom teaching, so learning, and just think about how they teach, storytelling, right? And so just adapt their teaching to the context of the student and schools and community in which you are working. How can they do that? Sometimes, you can not just for the student, and then how they see, how they want to do, and then just think about community need, and what is the way they can respect their own culture. And just think about how can you use their local community resources. Maybe there's a lot of things outside once, and then usually I went to a mission trip every summer, and then we go to Mexican Indians villages, and they don't have enough money. That's why when we prepare for the craft, I don't want to use a lot of money on that, because a team goes and we work together and they never see it and really fun. But after team left, what happened? It's boring. It's not new, right? I don't want to give them kind of a harsh later and try to they can do in their level and economically and any. So I try to make it really cheap, but try to make it nice. That's why I work a lot and I think a lot and I prepare a lot. Once and then I wanna maybe they don't like it, but it's not a maybe when they go to market and when you make a picture frame and maybe nice one is expensive and they wanna buy that one, but I don't wanna teach in the way. Okay, always kind of manufactured frame is a good one. But if you come to your country, not now, you don't want to use it like $1, $2 frame and $10 frame. You don't want to use it. You want to use the kind of natural settings and then anything, right? So once I used make a picture frame and so I gave them time to pick up some branches, and then we made tied with the string, and then we put the pictures. I took the pictures and then gave them. So I don't know. Sometimes, like if you think a little bit more, and there's a lot of resources available, like parents and church elders and elders and local leaders and schools and a lot of materials are available, resources are available, and then we can use them though, right? So not just classroom teaching, and maybe you can extend the classroom out into community and put in the world, real world significant to what you are teaching. That is so. So, and incorporate with your teaching with their environment and what they have. That is a very important thing. And that I try to do that though. Whenever I go and teach and I want to work with the local church members. Once we start off and then and they, the church members want to do their work, and then I just interest them to do that. Like in the beginning, it's already busy and cooking and then teaching, and we're gonna do some event, and then it's already busy. And as times go by, and then church members, we gotta help them, and then some adult is coming, and we have material, and then they cook, right, for the whole kids and for us, and then we eat together like that. And then sometimes they make their own thing, and we eat together like that. A lot of different ways though. Don't just don't just teach them what you bring, what you have. There's a lot of resources available, and sometimes more effective. And then just take students to the field trip and then teach them with their ideas. It's really good. How can we evaluate our teaching? Is it effective or not? Always think about our standard and what's the evaluation standards are different from there, right? And sometimes think about, and there's a lot of way that you can measure the intelligence. Usually in the beginning, and we just take a test with the papers, and you're gonna know how, test about how spatial and how different, how you answer based on they test your IQ. But nowadays there is lot of multiple ways they can evaluate evaluate who you are, right? Some are really good at music. Maybe they are bad on math and English. Some are really good at writing, but some are not. Even though smart, they have a higher IQ, they are not good at everything, right? Maybe they are good at figuring out how to study math and all kind of science stuff, but some are they are not good, and but still they have a good imagination. They are really wise how to, there is the different area of their kind of intellect. Like here is some of them. There is 8 forms of intelligence, and here is maybe 10 and 7 and Howard in a different way. And here is aptitudes in linguistic language and logical mathematics and naturalistic and spatial and musical, bodily, kinetic and interpersonal and intrapersonal intelligence. A lot of different ways try to measure what they are really excellent, right? So if you go to other culture, not just you take a test and then they got right more and then that's good. Not really though. Just think about they don't have a kind of much scientific process to do that, but sometimes experience learning is much better. So they see that how they apply their learning to the real setting and solve the problem. One of the ways they can do, right? So always and maybe incorporate some of the more culturally adaptive modes of assessing student performance, right? Not just taking tests here. Maybe you can make portfolios and then exhibitions and demonstration and productions and maybe a lot of different ways, and then you can see how they understand, and that's a good thing. Now you're don't evaluate the student with not your own criteria formed by your culture, right? There is, if you go to other countries, there's a little bit smaller settings, and then, but what about the urban setting, urban schools? It's already different, right? Just assume that you are the teachers or primary school teachers, and then if you go to teach school, and then some schools really dominate with Latinos. Latinos really dominate, like 80%. If you go to another district, city, and then I heard one school is more than 80% is Koreans in elementary school. I was really shocked. But if you come to my city and Asians, not the Korean, Asians is like more than 60-70%. There is a cultural diversity, individual difference, and sometimes urban settings class size should really big, and sometimes really impersonal and bureaucratic. And how can you teach them in their setting? It's not easy though. It's not easy. But if you are teachers there, if you go and teaching them, and we gotta really be creative. Also, we gotta understand the world's environment and who they are. I know my friend, I supporting guy in Indonesia. He's studying and then he's doing the kind of work. He went to kind of a really inner city and area, and then there are a lot of kids have much opportunity to go to school and learn about more. But they kind of had children and then provide to learn, opportunity to learn. That's a really nice, interesting ministry. So, but there is a cultural differences, but there is different. They will, even though think about there's a socio-economic differences, and then we gotta know that some are urban settings, some are really already exposed and already learned, and some are never. Depends on the resources available at home and outside in the context that they are in. That is we're gonna think about it. So basically, when you go to when you do cross-cultural teaching, and then when you get involved in cross-cultural teaching, you gotta understand the culture. You gotta understand who they are, and you gotta understand their worldview, right? So think about what you're gonna teach, how. But when you teach integrate the material with the cultural terms, and then how use their resources, and just try when you make a curriculum and then kind of integrate their cultural terms and their culture, right? When you evaluate not just the result of the test, and then what's the best way to measure who they are, what they learn, right? One of there is kind of hot issues, and then nowadays and globalizations, and then pandemic, and changed our societies, and technology can accelerate what changing, right? And distance, that's why I want to give you a kind of brief information about what is a distance learning, what is a cross-cultural teaching. But if you want to study a little bit, there's tons of materials out there, and then because nowadays it's kind of big issues, and then we talk about education, and then when we talk about education and just putting up and what is a practical way that we can use the knowledge in different way, right? But distance learning is it's not because of pandemic, and already it's there. And I don't know whether you guys study, and then there is start like 1800s, and here's a starting like 1833 in Swedish newspaper, and tout the opportunity study composition through the medium of the past. That is for starting off. Like usually, in the beginning, they use the mail correspondence school. I still remember maybe Korea adopted and teaching something, and then we had a program, but we don't give them much credential on that one, but still they raise. And every week, and you study something. There's a curriculum, and you gotta study and send and receive and study and send and receive like this. There's a kind of correspondence schools. And start from the European countries and Swedish and English and Germany, like around there, and then around in America, the influence of the England, the University of Wisconsin, the development of the short course and farmers institution in 1885 formed the foundation for the university system. 6 years later, the university announced a program of correspondence study led by the eminent historian Frederick Jackson Turner. So, and just think about it. Here is as colleges came out, university came out around 1878, 1879. That's a correspondence school. There is no internet, there is no computer, there is no video. So, and university extension movement in the United States and England and promote the correspondence method, right? That is early 80s. So there's a lot of schools and try to do that, and that is like 80s and 1800s, and usually they, because of the no technology and they use some kind of correspondence and by mails, right? And here is one of the examples that Moody Bible Institute found in 1886, formed the correspondence department. It's 1901. They continue, right now, continue today with a record of over millions enrolled from all over the world. It's a lot. There's a lot of classes are by private sectors, not the public schools. Private sectors, right? Schools. So in 1900, like this, an extension of the university, and then they do, and then, but 19 a little bit developed they focus on the commercial schools and prepare the vocational courses, and then different for the, it's not just a degree, and then commercial schools and and also vocational courses and how they start, and then 1900, and then the radio station was constructed in educational institution, and so they use a radio, and then they will have to use correspondence, and it takes long. Sometimes if you got the mail got lost, then what happened? At least I don't know a long time ago how long take to process, and we can receive and send. And radio station is really innovative, right? You don't have to do it, just tune to the radio and then listen. What happened? What's the problem? If we don't listen to that time, and it's hard, right? But they can make it shorter time. And like the early 1930s experimental television teaching programs, right? And then just think about developing they take the videos and then turn on. Still, they have like a radio station, and then there's a TV station, right? And nowadays they design a lot of programs, right? And right here, develop the fiber optic communication system and videos and a little bit different, right? Use a cable and deliver the whole information, not to just turn on the TV. And maybe they have their own what is it, the channels, and they provide the programs, yeah. And later on, tons of networks are connected to the internet. And nowadays, and like this, many faculty members use the convenient user interface of the World Wide Web to make a course material available, like Coursera, and they provide a lot of programs. And maybe it's not you don't have, there is no credit for school. Maybe some of them, yeah, if they have credit and you're gonna really study hard and they have exam. And my daughter has a kind of take a class, an internet class when they're high school, and they took the psychology class and Spanish class, and then, but they have a big exam. You're gonna take an exam, right? It's different. So think about how now they're using the distance learnings. But even though, like, people the pandemic, and then they use a lot of programs like this, and then still there is a lot of schools there, and campuses here and there, and internationally, and they open, and they use the internet, and they already set record the lectures, and then they made it sometimes nowadays in a little bit different way, and like this, and then use the web interface, and then they try to do that, and sometimes, and maybe they record, and maybe sometimes they like you can invite and teach one class and about what, and one class about, there's totally different nowadays, right? Still, you don't have to come to church, you don't have to come to school, and you can learn, you can get a degree, right? I know one of my friends, and he cannot go to school and ends up with, like this. They sit on the computer and they study and turn and finish the whole class, like. Nowadays, homeschool, right? Like that. It's not a public school, and it's a private sector, and charter school is out there, and they do their own things. But before, I did already mention when I was in Korea, and then that program is kind of downgrade, and they don't much have credit, but even though they graduated, it's not easy to graduate like a college, because the quality of education and the interaction with the teachers, and then, but still nowadays, and they have their own programs available, because they use the technology, and right. And sometimes there is a hybrid course, like my course, and like if you go to another university setting, and public school or private school, and then when you want to do PhD, and you turn into your project, and they accept it, and go and learn, and you gotta under supervision you gotta do it. But my program is kind of a hybrid program, by online, and then a lot of people can't stay come to school, and then they work every day, week by week, and they open the campus, and they join and turn in the paper, and you gotta read the other articles and comment, and they interact with each other, and there is a kind of residency period, and whole week you gotta make up the class. Just think about when you take a class and how many hours you gotta spend on that one. And if it is a semester, it's a 15 week, and then 15 week is 3 hour per semester is 3 hours about almost and almost 80 15 week and 3 hours about 40-50 hours you got in the classroom and we do like that. But whole week we sat and then whole day sit in the classroom we gotta learn something we talk in classroom. Little bit different way. So and a lot of time and because of the pandemic and kind of a new way of the kind of understanding of the distance learning. What is the distance learning? And students cannot go to school and they stay home and they gotta do it. You gotta listen to lectures, you gotta join the classroom, but yeah, it's a different way. It's not a classroom. What is the distance education, right? Distance education, UNESCO was defined like this, and distance education is characterized by its focus on open access to education and training provisions. It's open to education, right? Free learners from the constraint of time and place because of your time and you can just geographically and time-wise, vocational, you cannot do it. But if you have a freely adjusted time and you can do it, right? Stay home and maybe after work, and if you live and far away from the school, and still you can study. And offering flexible learning opportunities to individuals and groups of learners. That's a distance learning, whether people gives a high credit or not. And Keegan, he characterized about the distance learning. He can summarize, and there is 6 characters in the separation of learner and tutor as opposed to face-to-face teaching. You cannot see them sometimes. You just listen. Maybe sometimes you can see them like a video, but you cannot talk, right? The influence of the educational organization which distinguishes distance education from the private study. Right? That is kind of private, that is one of the teaching distance learning is still based on the it's not a personal study, on the institutions, right? The use of technical media like print, audio, website, right? The provision of a two-way communication, two-way communication, but the student may engage in dialogue with the teachers. Maybe email, maybe nowadays text, maybe like my schools and the campus, and they have make the page, and you gotta log in and you gotta talk mandatory, and otherwise you're not gonna pass the class. The possibility of the occasional meeting for the purpose of interaction and self-directed nature of the learner's environment, like this. Possibility there is, my problems there is, and residency period, and you come to school, and maybe every week you can spend 3 hours, but whole 3 days, 4 days, and you finish the whole class. The requiring hour. What is the benefit of the distance learning? Maybe affordable financially, it's cheap, right? You don't have to pay at least to think about when you go to school and you're gonna move there and another expense. You can work like this, financially affordable. What about affordable geographically? I already told you, and then if you don't have to move to, maybe you stay around your place, you have a job and you still a lot of things to do and you still do it. Manageable with the work. That is a basic benefit though, even though a little bit limited but still it's open. You can access to learn what you are interested in, maybe for your degree or your hobby or your interest. What about the problem that coming out from the distance education? So nature of material. Nowadays it may be a little bit different, and there is a class notice there, maybe you can download and then you can see, but this one is like they don't want the articles, but still think about and maybe it's not, sometimes it's hard to prepare study and different need. I mean that everybody has a different need, but we don't know who they are. But just don't think that like, oh, I come to this Lordland school and then I study here and then I think, oh, because of the pandemic I cannot come to school and class is open. It's a different. That one is open to everybody, right? And so we don't know who they are. We don't know so how much they can study. We don't know sometimes what are they more interested in, like this. What are their needs? Another problem is the multimedia, and a lot of people cannot have internet. Even though they have internet, it's cheaper and speed is slow. It's hard to open like that, and then that is another problem. And maybe phone and it's okay, but sometimes if you go to another place and there's no technologies already. Lack of feedback and contact with the teachers. How can you get the feedback? How the student to do it, and sometimes just follow and just think about, and lectures are recorded, and then maybe, I don't know, just provide it, right? And maybe teachers who recorded the lecture and then use for the lecture, and then if they don't follow up, and it's not easy, hard, and contact, or lack of support and service. Internet service, and then if I have some problems, and maybe administration help you, but I don't know how much how much for the academic issues stuff. There is no lack of social interaction. So nowadays, and then just think about homeschools, and they have their own, and then a lot of people do the homeschool, and then they get together and they provide social interactions, because there's a problem like this. And then what about lack of student training? You're gonna do by yourself, right? So that is a kind of a problem from the distance education, and maybe more than that. But another problem is associated with the distance education and lack of presence of the teachers or the examiners, and the low status of a distance education institute, and then they don't give them much credit though. because of their curriculum. So yeah, maybe load in the other, as formal schools, and that's the basic kind of people's perception. But nowadays, and a lot of people do that, but some school has kind of extension program and willing to provide and to also vocation, also job places, and then acknowledge what they do like that. But still, think about education, quality of education. In some schools, they have their own kind of curriculums, and then my daughter, she went to one of the college in East Coast, and then a small college, and then if you want to take a class outside, there is a consortium and associate, and they kind of change the classes, and then it's okay. You can go and school and take a class, and then they already made a contract, it's okay. But outside of that one, and if you want to take a class at UCLA, if you want to take a USC, and then they ask them to bring the what? Syllabus and content of the what? Class. So they're going to compare with the syllabus and content of the class and compare is it comparable, they acknowledge it. They don't, they're not going to give you credit. Usually they count the credits of 1 unit, and sometimes they give them credit half. It means nothing. You're going to take a class again, right? So mean. That's why formal schools have really high demanding and achievement, and they require basic kind of knowledges and then all kind of stuff. There is a certain criteria for that one. That's why people compare it, but still nowadays a lot of it is acknowledge what they have done in terms of education, and then rigidity imposed by the university regulations. So not that much flexibility like a classroom, you could just follow it. And misconception about the role of distance education departments. So think about how they do, and how they done, and then still, reality is a different one. And discrimination with the product of the distance education department, okay, we know already can relate to the quality of education. And lack of support by the faculties in the department, because they don't value, they don't rate on the distance learning, right? I know, just think about traditional education. So you gotta come to school and sit in the classroom. There is an interaction between the among the student, and interaction with the teachers, and then you gotta do something in presence, right? Every week you see, and then you can see the progress, how much do it, and then a lot of in person is maybe more easier to the progress of the learning, see the progress of the learning, all kind of stuff, right? In the we often talk about not just a certain topic, and just think about a lot of topics that relate to the other field, other things. We can talk, or we can learn in different ways, right? But nowadays, think about the trend. Some job, it doesn't require degree. It's related to the computers, right? They don't require college degrees. What about online classes? Nowadays, they don't devalue online classes, because already whether Harvard and whether distancing kind of sectors or education sectors, they do the same thing. And Zoom class. So every student cannot go to class, and there's online degrees and a lot of classes, and then like a Coursera, and then what? So another, I think so another one is it's a Khan Academy, so give them basic information and teaching for the student who cannot afford for education, right? Like, yeah, and they give them a lot of information, but yeah, it's more online class. It's not a course, yeah, degree, but there's online degrees there. So always I can see the kind of promotion in my website, just Berkeley, right? So information process, something like that, and master programs like this. But online, just online class like this, hybrid class, or yeah, like this, and okay. There's a lot of limitation in online degree, and why don't you mix it with the formal education and the distance learning? And yeah, trend is changing, and society is kind of evolving, and kind of before we don't accept it, but kind of we are accepting, and yeah, so. Nowadays, if you go to other countries and they don't have just a little private sectors, and then Christian schools, and it's hard to get a degree, but there's a kind of association with American schools, and then they have a joint program, and then they follow the curriculums and teach them, and then they give them a degree like this. Yeah, globalizations and also the change of the world because of COVID, and then a lot of things is changing. Education as well. So that's the I want to think about. If you are interested in education, if you are engaged in education, and how can we teach? How can we adjust adjust to the changes? And that's the kind of issue there. And I don't think, so distance learning is, I don't know how we can teach the kind of values and ethics, and it's not easy, right? And there's no any in-person relationship. I know we can just deliver the knowledge, but we can show each other's basic values through the basic spending time together. Anyway, we cannot even know the trend, but if you just think about education, how can we fulfill the purpose of education? Even though we run a lot of online class, and what is the values? How can we deliver our values, and how can we equip the student with the knowledge and skills and values? Nowadays, we are losing the values. Well, there is a philosophy, and there is goals, and and how can you achieve, right? And achieve your philosophy, and how can you implement through curriculum? How can you assign all subject, and then how can you deliver to your daily classroom? How can you manage your classroom to effectively in your teachings? How can you assess, and how can you assess a student, and how can you assess teachers, right? And I want you just to aware of what is going on in education. It's not a new, but still in terms of education, we gotta think all the time. That's why I bring this topic, and also distance learning, cross-cultural learning, right? Teaching. So maybe in this setting, maybe we use a lot of cross-cultural things, but this is American schools, and then you guys come from other countries, but still, many times we don't use a kind of cross-cultural skills and values, right? But still, if you want to be really effective, you know, in teaching and consider the student background and their abilities, right? And their cultural background and then who they are and how can we help them. All right, that's today's lectures, and next week we're gonna a little bit relate to the education, but I